Alright, guys, it is January football. Wow, we're finally here. I shouldn't even say finally because it felt like the season flew by. And time flies as well because I remember last year, my first video were the wild card picks of the 2023 to 2024 NFL season. And now, full circle calendar year, here we are again, man. So it should be a fun week of January football on wild card weekend. Breaks my heart that the Bengals are not going to be in it again for the second straight year. But, I'm going to do my best to uncover. It won't be as invested as I obviously would be if the Bengals were in it. And this year just feels kind of off to me. But I'll give you my thoughts on the matchup and I'll give you my winner as well. So let's dive into these matchups and we'll see who gets to play Kansas City or Detroit. I haven't really looked into the bracket, so this I'll probably just focus on the winners. But yeah, let's dive into it. So, kicking things off, AFC Wild Card matchup, Saturday 4:30 p.m. We have the Los Angeles Chargers heading to NRG Stadium to play the Houston Texans. Chargers, they enter this matchup with a lot of momentum. They won their last 3 games. They clinched the top AFC wildcard spot. Justin Herbert, he's been remarkable all year. I mean, he's thrown only 3 picks. And I think that's a symbol of just his overall growth as a player. I've always been a big fan of his. And, I always felt like the organization was kind of, not giving him what I guess he needed to be successful. And, the Texans, CJ Stroud's, been very pedestrian this season, if you ask me. I mean, their offense has also been hampered by injuries to, obviously Tank Dell had a brutal injury, and then Stephon Diggs. So they're both out for the season. So that's going to be a big loss for CJ Stroud. And, he's going to have to feed the rock to Joe Mixon. He's going to have to just feed the running game, and he's going to have to make some, something work. Because if you look at that Chargers defense, they allow the fewest points per game in the league at 17.7. I think that they should be able to take advantage of Houston's weak receiving corps. And I think they're going to just force CJ Stroud into difficult situations here. And, LA has an ability to dominate teams with a losing record, especially. I mean, if you look at they're 8-1 all season. Yeah, I know the Texans, they don't have a losing record, but they're not great of a team. I mean, they're 10-7. And, they just strike me as a team that's just very iffy coming into this playoff. So, I think that the Chargers are a strong favorite. If the defense holds firm and Herbert delivers as he's done all year, I think the Chargers could come out on top. And I think it could be a close game. And that's actually what I think is going to happen. I'm going to pick the Chargers to go into NRG Stadium. I'm not even going to call it an upset. I know the Texans are the division winner and the division, leaders. But that's just a testament to how weak that AFC South is. Because I think the Chargers, they play in the division with Denver, Kansas City. So I think that's just a testament to how there's levels to these divisions. And I think that it's just going to be a tough game for the Texans. And I have the Chargers coming out on top. So give me LA in this one. Saturday night, we have another AFC wildcard matchup. We got a divisional matchup here. We got the Pittsburgh Steelers heading to the Charm City to play the Baltimore Ravens. So we look at the Steelers. They are struggling offensively. They've failed to score more than 20 points in either their previous, I believe, 4 games in their losing streak. And they're coming off a loss to the Bengals in Week 18 where they failed to clinch the 5th seed and travel to Houston on what could have been a probably easier matchup for them. But now they head to Baltimore, who's coming off a win over the Cleveland Browns to clinch the AFC North. You look at here, I mean, they just beat this team in Week 16. I mean, Lamar Jackson, he strikes me as a big dual threat. 4,000 passing yards, 800 rushing yards this season. That makes him a nightmare for this season, man. I think also you look at Derrick Henry. I mean, he provides a spark on that ground game that they haven't had in a while. And I think that they can just wear down Pittsburgh's defensive front, who's also struggling coming into this game. And, TJ Watt is healthy for this matchup, which he obviously wasn't in Buffalo last year, but, Pittsburgh's defense, I think they're naturally going to generate pressure. That's just what they do. But I don't think their offense is going to be able to sustain drives, and I think that just it puts them at a major just disadvantage Excuse me. And I just don't see them being able to sustain the Ravens' high-powered offense. And the Ravens, their secondary has just not been great this year. But they've been coming along, and particularly if you look at that Week 16 game against the Steelers, I mean, they were able to wear down Russell Wilson. They've been able to attack with relative ease, especially on the offensive end. So I think with the combination of the Steelers' offensive ineptitudes that they've had the last 4 games and the Ravens, they're riding high coming into this game. And yeah, the Steelers, they have a great history against Baltimore, especially over the last 10 games. I believe they've lost 8 of the last 10 against the Steelers. It's going to be a tough one for both teams because it's a divisional game, so you can expect both teams, they know each other, to come out and play aggressive, play whatever you want to call it. But I don't think it's going to be an easy one. But I got the Ravens advancing here. I just see the Steelers being another one-and-done team. And they've fallen into a major slump. And they got some issues this offseason that they got to address. From the quarterbacking room, from, just the offensive line. Even the defense, the secondary has been very iffy. So I think it's just going to be another one-and-done season for Pittsburgh, who have still not won a playoff game since 2016. And I just think that continues. And the Ravens, they advance and they play in the divisional round. Will they go to Kansas City? I have no idea. Anyway, I mean, regardless, I think that the Ravens, they pull it off and they move on. Next up, we go to the Sunday slate of games. Another AFC matchup here. We got the Denver Broncos at the Buffalo Bills. So we look at the Broncos. Bo Nix has been impressive for the Broncos. The Bills' defense is going to present him with a challenge that he hasn't faced in quite a bit. And Denver's reliance on their running game is going to be crucial here, in my opinion. They're going to be tested against a very strong defensive line for Buffalo. The Bills, they got a lot of firepower. I mean, they lost to the Patriots last week, but yeah, they were resting their starters. They were just playing for seeding at that point. But Josh Allen, he's a likely MVP candidate. Him and Lamar Jackson, toe-to-toe, who you pick and choose, I guess. But 13-4 record, an undefeated season at home. Highmark Stadium, I believe that's what it's called. Yeah, it's one of the toughest environments in the NFL to play in. Bills offense, I think that Josh Allen, he's going to be able to take advantage of just his arms, his legs. I think that they should be able to capitalize on Denver's kind of youth and inexperience in the playoffs because they haven't been back since, obviously, their last Super Bowl. I just see this being as a welcome. I don't want to call them frauds. I mean, every team that gets here, I feel like they deserve to be here, quote unquote. But the Broncos, I mean, it sucks to see them in the playoffs just because the Bengals were in contention with them, and we put ourselves in a position to be with that victory over them. But at the end of the day, I mean, I'm happy for the Broncos, I guess. But I would have loved to see the Bengals go to Buffalo. But it is what it is. Denver's a very young, upcoming team. But I think the Bills right now, they got a lot of firepower in that offense. I think Denver has a bright future. With that being said, though, I think that they have too much experience to fall short in this game. I'm going to go Buffalo here, man. I think that they secure a decisive victory here. I'm not going to say it'll be a huge blowout, but I think it'll be a comfortable 14, 15 points, if you ask me. It's going to be kind of what they did to the Steelers, except the Broncos will look more competitive, I feel like, in that game. Because the Steelers, you look at the Steelers, they had Mason Rudolph starting last year. I think that Bo Nix will have a much better game. But I just see Buffalo as a very legit threat to not only the Kansas City Chiefs, but also just the AFC and the NFL in general. So I'm going to go Buffalo here. Moving to the NFC side of the bracket, man, we got the Green Bay Packers traveling to Philadelphia to play the Eagles. Jordan Love got hurt last week. Christian Watson, a non-contact injury. So that's a tough pill for Green Bay to swallow. Their Week 18 loss to the Bears, I think, exposed some of their vulnerabilities, but that's only because of injury. Otherwise, I thought the Packers were a really, obviously, very strong team coming into the playoffs. And I honestly could have seen them upsetting Philadelphia. I'm not going to lie to you. But, going to Philly, the Eagles, most dominant team this season, in my opinion, right now, I'd rank them as the best team in the league. 14-3. Overall, just strong roster. Jalen Hurts, if healthy, is going to be key to their success. And, his connection with Saquon Barkley in the backfield, who's another candidate for Offensive Player of the Year. I think that's going to give Philadelphia a big edge against the Packers' defense. The defense, for Philadelphia also has been just elite, straight up elite. And they're capable of, like, I guess, stifling the offenses with, their pass rush, their secondary. Philadelphia's home field advantage here, depth, I think it's just going to bode well for them, especially against the Pack, who, are just limping into the playoffs and coming in with not a lot of momentum with their Week 18 loss to Chicago. So I think Philadelphia's just got an advantage on all ends. And unfortunately for Green Bay, great season still. I thought that, they really hung in there, with they kept on par with Minnesota and Detroit, but some injuries and just some bad breaks, I guess if you want to call it that. I think that just, unfortunately, that's just going to be the end for them. I see them being back here next year. I see them, being competitive for years to come. But right now, man, I got to go Philly here. They're just too red hot coming into this game. And, yeah, I just see this being a situation of Eagles. I think they're a really strong NFC, favorite. And I can see them boating with Detroit for, that top spot. So I'm going to go Philly on this one. Next up, pretty good one here. We got the Washington Commanders heading to Florida to play the Tampa Bay Buccaneers. So for Washington, Jaden Daniels has been electrifying as a rookie quarterback. I mean, he's been just a force from all ends. I mean, it started with the Week 3 game against us, unfortunately, where it just felt like he was unstoppable, which he was. And the Commanders, I don't know if they're going to be able to sustain some drives because this Bucs defense has been monstrous, and they excel at forcing turnovers. And, Baker Mayfield, I mean, you got to give a lot of credit to him for that Buccaneers team. I mean, he's led them to back-to-back division titles, and, he's provided a great sense of leadership, and just he seems to really grow. He's growing as a person and a quarterback, so very happy for him. He's way far away from his Browns days, and the offense has been able to come alive the last few weeks. I mean, they hit a little bit of a slump in the middle there, but overall I thought they were able to figure it out, and I think all the credit goes in the world to, that entire team, man. So I think they're going to be able to handle the Commanders here, but I do want to give a lot of credit to Jaden Daniels and just that offense in general. The defense has also been, stout over the last few weeks. But I see Tampa just winning this game because they're at home, and I just think they're more proven right now at this stage. I mean, I could see this being kind of a situation where I'm not saying the Bucs are as snake bitten as the Cowboys are when it comes to recent playoff games, but I could see this being like a Green Bay Dallas last year. You remember Jordan Love and the Packers, they upsetted the Cowboys, but I don't think it's going to happen. I think the Bucs, they're feeling good coming into this game. They're the NFC South champions. They've done a lot of things well, and I think that they should be able to edge them out here. But this will be a really good game, a really good duel between Jaden Daniels and Baker Mayfield. So I got the Bucs out on top here. Closing things out here, we got the Monday night matchup, another NFC Wild Card matchup. We got Minnesota Vikings traveling to SoFi Stadium to play the Los Angeles Rams. So the Vikings, unfortunately for them, they're the 5th seed. They lost the NFC North crown. They lost the number 1 seed in Detroit. But they're still one of the most dangerous teams in the league, man. Sam Darnold, he's been having a resurgence with Minnesota. He was very iffy in the last game against Detroit. But I don't know, man. He's got Jordan Addison. He's got Justin Jefferson. Minnesota's passing attack, I think they can keep up with anybody, even Cincinnati. I think our passing attack is the best in the game. But I think Minnesota's, to be frank with you, is right on par with them. I wouldn't say they're on the same, but they're not too far behind. But the Rams, they're going to rely on Cooper Kupp, Puka Nacua to just keep it going for them. Matthew Stafford's going to have one of those games. But I see the Vikings' ability to disrupt their offense and their quarterback. I see Minnesota's offensive efficiency coming up clutch against the Rams' defense. That's just, they're not terrible, but they're not great. But I see that Darnold, I know I'm being inconsistent here in terms of playoff experience and whatnot, but I see Sam Darnold here as just resurging his career, and I think that this is just a prove it game for them and for him. It's a tough loss, a tough pill for them to swallow against Detroit last week, and I believe they were 14 and 3 this year in the 5th seed, so that's just snake bitten for the Vikings. But coming into this year, they had a lot of turmoil and a lot of just issues and just bad luck, and that's the kind of franchise that they've unfortunately just are. but you got to give them a lot of credit, and I think that they're poised to make an edge here. I think it's going to be a close game. I think LA is going to hang in there with their passing attack as well, and I think it'll be an offensive shootout. But I think that the Vikings, at the end of the day, they're going to be able to just play clutch, and you have to think that Minnesota fans, I know this is kind of an under the radar thing, but Minnesota fans actually do travel well. I see this being another thing where when they had the Super Bowl at home against us, I mean, 60%, 70% of that stadium were Bengals fans. And, I just felt like they're more of just a basketball, baseball city. So I see this being like Vikings could, I don't want to say take it over, but they could drown out the noise of the Rams fans. And I think they're going to be able to knock off the edge here simply because they're just a better team. They come into this game a little bit more hot, even with that Week 18 loss. But both teams are coming into this game very well. If I'm an NFC playoff team, I would not want to play the Vikings or the Rams. But I see this being the Vikings. They bounce back and they win a playoff game for, when was the last playoff win? 2020. So I see this being another situation where they just go out and take care of business like they have done all year. And against a Rams team that's very good. Very good. So I got the Vikings in this one. And that's going to do it, guys. Again, I don't know who's going to play Kansas City. I have no idea. I looked at the brackets. I know the logistics and everything, but I just want to come on here and talk about the winners. It's still surreal that it's been like a year since I made NFC AFC Wild Card video. I love to talk about football, but it's also going to be snake bitten because it's like the Bengals. They were so close to making it. One game had to go the other way. Can't even blame the Chiefs, honestly. We have no one to blame but ourselves. I mean, the Chiefs, what do you expect? They got the 1 seed locked up. They're going to rest their starters, obviously. But what can you do, man? I'm gonna try to enjoy it as much as I can, but I just won't be as invested this year. It just doesn't feel right. Just not us even be in the tournament with the performance that we had on offense and defense to close out the year. Unfortunately, the 5-game winning streak was fun and all, but it just doesn't feel the same. But yeah, that's gonna do it, guys. I appreciate you guys watching. Hope you guys enjoy playoff football. I guarantee you guys will probably enjoy it more than I will. But, I'm still going to try to enjoy these games as much as I can. But you guys have a great one, and I'll see you guys next time for the divisional round predictions. I'm out of here.